Well, the big story this week was also the tariff hikes. The first one after 2.5 years, much awaited. It started with Reliance Jio. They took the lead this time and they hiked tariffs between 12 to 25%. But immediately, Bharti Airtel followed with a 10 to 20% tariff hike. So on an average, you would say the blended tariff increase has been about 15 to 20% for the telecom operators, much anticipated and largely in line with expectations. But this time, what's also different is that unlike in the December 2021 tariff hike, postpaid tariffs have also been hiked, and Reliance Jio also looked to hike the postpaid tariffs, knowing very well that perhaps it's the competitors who benefit a lot more. You know, we've spoken a lot about this telecom tariff hike, so there are just three quick questions about this. One, is Reliance Jio perhaps preparing for an IPO? Because this time they've taken the lead in hiking tariffs versus Vodafone Idea in 2019 and Bharti Airtel in 2021. And if you remember, in August of I think 2019, close to about 4.5 years ago, Reliance had said that they plan to take their consumer businesses public in the next 5 years. So the consumer business would be Jio and the retail. So I think the street is now questioning, is this perhaps one of the steps which will eventually lead to an IPO? The second thing is, are we now seeing some signs of 5G monetization? Because earlier 5G, unlimited 5G was available for most of the plans, but now it's going to be available only for plans which offer 2 GB and more. So in a way, 5G monetization. But also, what next, right? Because the telecom tariff increase was seen as the big trigger. So from here on, are we going to see sustained tariff hikes? A Jio IPO could be a potential trigger. A dividend from Indus Stars, a resumption of a dividend now that the health of Vodafone Idea has also improved. And even on Vodafone Idea, a capex pickup and the 5G rollout. But how do the stocks perform, right? Week to date, we've already seen big moves in stocks, particularly Reliance Industries. Bharti Airtel corrected on Friday, but still ended with a gain of about 2.5%. But look at the way Bharti Airtel has reacted, 40% up this week. So we've seen some very, very large moves by the telecom companies this week, this month, and even for the year. Jakes, I think this was the big trigger, right? The telecom tariff increase. That's played out. So what next? And can the street now assume sustained tariff increases, maybe once in 2 years? Is that something we can build into our estimates?
Actually, it's been well documented that tariffs were probably at global lows so there was space to move up. And to my mind, the fact that tariff hikes are now being accepted, or hopefully will get accepted, is the good thing. And as you know, almost 80-90% of the tariff hikes actually flow to through to the EBITDA level. But what's actually interesting is that not just that, but future spectrum auctions, etc., will get taken up, because this is actually a cash flow business. And now that the players are well established, no new player coming in, to my mind, I think it's a well-oiled industry. Which
would you recommend buying any telecom companies?
I don't want to get into specifics, but essentially, I think the infrastructure players in this are, to my mind, even more protected than the competitor, because the infrastructure is almost monopoly, if you will. So I think everything and the infrastructure companies can actually expand into towers, going to data centers, going to charging stations, for instance, co-located with towers and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of potential there. And as the consumption here moves up, I think you'll find the infra being taken up in a big way. So that's also a cap.
In that sense, right? I mean, which without sort of getting into, but that's the infra.
People can figure that out, yeah. But I'm as I said, little concerned about talking specific stocks, given the entire orientation towards that. But I think if you look at it logically, without getting into the competitive B2C competition amongst the existing players, because difficult to say, where the switch takes place, etc. But the infra is like an annuity business. It's a leasing business. It's
on a corollary basis, if you look at auto companies, OEMs, as compared to, say, an ancillary company, which supplies to everybody.
Even there is competition, but to the extent that they do, you're right. I mean, it's very similar. Here it's a lot more sticky.
Yeah.
Because for people to switch around from tower providers from one to the other, etc., is not that easy. So I think there's a lot more stickiness. It's a lot more assured thing. But as I said, there are opportunities. So in this market, you've got to keep sort of deep diving for. I think the easy multi-baggers are out of the way.
Sure. Jakes, what on the metals and commodities? You've been tracking that space very closely. What's your sense now for the second half of this year? You think the momentum in the metals is going to continue?
Stocks have moved even before that. I think the story here will be that the dollar index is actually refusing to crack. That's been actually a hypothesis of mine that it will crack. But problem is because of this asset rotation, somebody who's selling one asset is buying dollars, somebody who's selling dollars to buy some other asset. So the dollar index is not showing the weakness that, so it's kind of stuck in a very, very narrow range between 103 on excess to maybe 106 or thereabouts. So given that it is trendless, I can't see the dollar breaking out because interest rates are poised to at least peak out if not come down. Given that, you would argue that no new capacities are coming up, people view this as not clean. So a lot of the materials are not able to create fresh capacities. So logically, as your consumption of steel, consumption of some of these moves up, it's going to be impossible recreating the kind of mineral companies that there are. So there should be a boom, but I think it's taking time. Stock prices, by the way, have started moving up, especially for the leveraged ones. Sure. Whereas prices move up, not only are you paying down debt, but you're adding healthily to your ROE. Okay. So.
Okay, we're going to wrap up this Friday, this week. Thank you very much, Jakes, for enjoying.
Thank you for having me over.
And all of you guys enjoy the cricketing weekend, the sporting weekend.
Absolutely.
With that, it's a wrap on Editors Roundtable. We'll be back fresh on Monday morning with more market action. Thank you very much for watching.